Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another retro RPG. And at the end of another week and the end of our poll, we've got a very clear winner with the Heavy Weapons Handbook for Twilight 2000. Perhaps very apt with everything in the news at the moment. But as usual, I'll be back at the end of the video with some other poll related stuff and some other channel related news. But I'd just like to offer a wee reminder that we have a Patreon. So if you'd like to help the channel out, or you'd like to get access to these videos a week early, then check the Patreon out in the description down below, because it'd be very much appreciated. But let's go over to the desktop and have a look at the Heavy Weapons Handbook. So, this is the Heavy Weapons Handbook for 2nd edition Twilight 2000 by Games Designers Workshop. And it came out in 1992. Now, this is an example of one of the things I didn't really like about Twilight 2000. And I've probably not explained myself very well in the past. But as we look through this, I will explain in better detail what I didn't like about the way they did these books. Now, flipping over to the back cover, you can see the Heavy Weapons Handbook finishes what infantry weapons of the world started by rating over 170 rocket launchers, grenade launchers, anti-tank and anti-aircraft missile launchers, towed field, anti-tank and anti-aircraft guns, grenades, mines and other support weapons for Twilight 2000. Infantry units armed only with rifles and machine guns are only half equipped. The Heavy Weapons Handbook provides the rest of what you'll need. Weapons covered range from man-portable missile launchers, such as the LRAC F1, the Eryx, the venerable American bazooka, anti-tank missiles ranging from the aging SS-11 surface-to-surface missile, bit of a typo there, to the FOG-M fiber optic guided missile, and towed anti-aircraft guns from the Swiss 20mm Oerlikon to the Soviet 130mm AA gun. Anti-aircraft missiles such as Stinger, Blowpipe and Mistral are also included. Heavy Weapons Handbook also includes anti-personnel and anti-tank mines, and recoilless rifles ranging in size from the US M18A1 57mm to the Soviet B11 107mm. Each weapon is illustrated, and each entry contains all the information needed for use in Twilight 2000 game system, including full combat statistics, weight, price, and availability ratings, both for the weapon and its ammunition. Weapons covered in Heavy Weapons Handbook are usable with Twilight 2000, but also with Merc 2000, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, and Dark Conspiracy. Now, I'd like to sort of comment on that, because these are all Twilight 2000 weapons, although it's compatible. I did find it a little odd, because if I reach to the side here, I have my copy of Infantry Weapons of the World. And it says the same on the back. Twilight 2000, other games using the same system, Merc 2000, Dark Conspiracy, and Catalogs and Dinosaurs. But inside it, we've got this Armington Laser Carbine Model 2. So we can see that the Infantry Weapons of the World goes into sort of fantastical weapons, whereas Heavy Weapons is definitely stuck in the real world of the 1990s of the Twilight War. Now inside, you can see the art quality is really, really nice. Games Designers Workshop was fantastic. They really did illustrate everything quite lovingly by this stage in their history. Got a long list of the contents of it. And then we're very rapidly getting through the introduction, which explains some terms. You know, HE is high explosive, heat is high explosive anti-tank, and so on and so forth, for people who aren't aware of these terms. And then we're straight into the equipment. And this is the format, basically, 2 per page, with a very short description, the attributes, the prices, and then the stats, and a nice illustration. Well, the illustrations are lovely, apart from in certain places which come onto where I don't think they're massively useful. But it's a nicely presented book. The problem I've got is that these items are only slightly different. The attributes range, but you'll be able to find a version of a missile launcher anti-tank weapon which has basically the same stats as this somewhere else in this book. So what should make it very much different is the description and the information. So we've got, this is a French-built, shoulder-fired, medium anti-tank weapon, sold to a number of smaller armies in Europe and elsewhere. And that's all it tells us. It doesn't tell us what year it came out, because what might be useful in a book like this would be for weapons which could be found by the players, because this is Twilight 2000. So you're not supposed to have access to all the latest. It's not that your characters are looking through a catalogue and then nipping out to the shops. There's been a nuclear war. This is post-apocalyptic. You are going around and scavenging things. So going and scavenging an armory, which might have only 1960s weapons, and using those, is absolutely believable. An old supply depot somewhere. And, I don't know, was the Appalachian available in the 1960s? I'd be guessing not, but that kind of information would be very useful. The Armbrust, adopted by the US Army in the late 1980s. There's a bit more information here, you know, why it's named, but the descriptions are so short, and that's my problem with these kind of books for Twilight 2000. We have a book with 170 weapons in them, but the information is only a millimeter deep. Whereas what I'd really like is a lot more information. You know, some of the weapons have a bit more. It was adopted in the early 1990s by the French Army and sold extensively to other nations as well. So you know who's going to be carrying it. You know when it became available. That's handy information to have. But again, B300, Israeli design from which the M12 SMAW was derived. That tells me nothing. So that's my problems with these books, that most of the weapons in here are so generic that they might all as well just be covered under missile launcher, anti-tank missile launcher. Because that information can come out in play. You know, oh, you capture a German vehicle and it's got a German missile launcher in it. We're carrying on through, and we've got law rockets, you know, British service ones. Bazookas, obviously this is around from World War II, so it's one of the older ones. It tells you what the origin of the name is. And as I said, very nice illustrations through. These are all very detailed, and they look great. Definitely what you want, so your players know exactly what they've found. But, again, we come on to slight problems. The ADATs here. It doesn't show what the launcher looks like, it just shows what the missile is like. So, is this a shoulder-launched thing? Is this only going to be fired from an aircraft? What's the information here? How do you use this in a game? I've been told that Twilight 2000 was mainly played by military experts who would know all this stuff. But that doesn't come across as a great excuse to me. I definitely prefer in a book to give me information. If I'm paying out for a book, I don't want just some pretty pictures and some very shallow information. But we've got lots of stuff in here. Again, missiles. And we've got the Dragon Pip, which I'll come back to shortly, because there's obviously some relevant information in this. Fiber optic guided missiles. And multinational anti-tank missile, produced by a Franco-German consortium, the Euro missile, the Harpon, the Swingfire, the Tank Breaker, Chinese-made wire-guided anti-tank missile, HK-69, MK-19 infantry support grenade launcher in the US Army, the M1, a large revolver-style grenade launcher. I believe Arnie uses one in Terminator 2, where it's filled with gas grenades. It definitely looks very similar. I'm not sure if it's the exact same weapon. Concussion grenades, fragmentation grenades, different grenades, chemical rifle grenades, Bofors 40mm L60 ADA. We're coming on to sort of anti-aircraft guns and larger artillery-type weapons. Some of these look fantastic. I admit that these look kind of fun. A wee seat on the back with the guns mounted with a large cache of ammunition. They look kind of fun. 130mm anti-aircraft guns. Different trailer ones which can be towed into positions. These, again, I'd love more information on these. You know, where does the operator sit? Is it in between somehow? Or are these controlled by an electronic device from a distance? And they do look automated. That one does look like a cockpit between the two guns. Does that provide some armor for the operator? But anyway, we've got various weapons here, Rheinmetall, and then we've got some nice colour plates. A Stinger SSM, Type 69 RPG up the top there. TOW ATGM. It is very much gun porn. There's lots of pictures of different weapons here, lovingly illustrated and detailed through. A very useful book, but as I said, I would have liked more. I want to know why these are being used. Anti-aircraft guns, 150mm guns, so many guns. Howitzers, a great term. Blowpipes, Stinger missiles. Well, in leafing through this during the week, obviously with the news on television about Ukraine, I know that we've been providing, or the West has been providing Ukraine with two main types of weapons. The Stinger missile is one, and the Javelin missile is the other. So I was like, oh, I'm quite surprised that in 1992, the Stinger missile that they're handing out today was around. No, it's a completely different weapon. The one has a much higher number, so they've just reused the name. And likewise the Javelin, manufactured by the British firm of Short Brothers. Now, the Javelins which are being sent out now are actually the Dragon Pip's latest edition. So the Dragon improved missile has been improved further and is now called the Javelin. Which, since the Javelin missiles here were retired in 2005, there doesn't seem a long gap, and that seems overly confusing by the military. But maybe that's on purpose, so people aren't sure when they find us or hear a squad is equipped with Javelin missiles if they've got the outdated version or the latest version. I don't know why people reuse the names. Well, we've got Grails, we've got Gremlins, Starstreak missiles, Towed Rapier arrays, Folgors, Carl Gustav shoulder fired recoilless rifles, the Wombat, lots of recoilless rifles here, so basically anti-tank type guns. We're on to mortars, infrared guided anti-tank mortar rounds, antipersonnel mines, the Claymore, which everybody who's watched the Vietnam movie is aware of, off-route anti-tank mines, anti-personnel mines, so many weapons to use, so many different types of mines by different things. Then we've got the Hafler, so a handheld flamethrower, a backpack flamethrower, a cart-mounted flamethrower for destroying trenches and things, I imagine, a trailer-mounted Soviet flamethrower, rockets, and then we've got large missile platforms. This one I definitely recognise, the BM-27, because that's being used in the Ukraine at the moment. So, BM-27, nicknamed the Urgan Hurricane by Russian soldiers, one of the most recent additions, a long line of multiple rocket launchers dating back to the World War II Katyusha. 16-tube launcher is mounted on the back of a heavy truck, similar in performance to the US 5-ton truck. So, they were new in 1992, and they're still being used now, some 30 years later. And then we've got an advert for the Merc 2000 Gazetteer. So that was the Heavy Weapons Handbook for Twilight 2000, and that won the poll this week with some 28% of the vote, just ahead of Ramsey Campbell's Goatswood, which came second on 24%. Because I'm going to be busy next weekend, I'm actually going to record 2 videos this weekend. So I'm actually going to take the Heavy Weapons Handbook as the winner, and then Goatswood as for next week's, because they came very close together. They were way ahead of Fields of Fire on 21%, and the Reformation Coalition Equipment Guide only came on 12%, with Terror Counter-Terror on 15%. So they were very varied results, basically top to bottom in scale though. So I'll be covering those 2 videos over the next couple of weeks, but because of that there'll be no poll this week. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a live stream in the middle of the week. So if you've got any comments, and you're a Patreon, so you get access to this before the live stream goes live, then please leave them in the comments down below. I'll respond to them, and obviously I'll be responding to anybody who joins me in the live stream. But I've no other news this week, so thank you very, very much for watching. But most of all, as always, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.